Here as well. Let's go straight to our broadcast centre in Washington, D.C. Patty.
Hey, Jane, thanks so much for passing it along here in the Washington, D.C. Bureau. This election has been really highlighted the divisions, as you've been saying, within the country, but also the divisions between the races and the genders. And I want to get into that in a little bit more depth with our panel. First, we have Amy Kramer. She's the co-founder of Women Vote for Trump. Indira Laxmanan. She's a columnist for the Boston Globe. She's smiling because I butchered her name. And Douglas Sloan. He's a consultant with the National Capital Strategy Group. Thank you all for joining me. Before we get into this, I think we all just have to talk about the state of the race. The New York Times started the night with Clinton having an 80+% chance of winning the presidency. Donald Trump now has 59% chance of winning the presidency. So, Amy, how are you feeling? You voted for Trump?
I did, and I mean, I hope it stands, and I hope he does win. But it's up and down, and so just have to wait it out and see.
All right, Indira.
Well, I mean, I think it's a much more stressful night than many people had expected. I think, you know, based on the polls, but we know that polls have not done very well of predicting this year. We saw what happened with Brexit, went against what the polls said. We saw with the Colombian peace accord, that was defeated despite what the polls said. So, you know, I've said from the beginning, Argentina. Too hard to call this race.
Well,
you're a Democrat.
We Americans would like to think that our polling data is better than in other foreign countries, but maybe not so. All the prognosticators had Hillary coming in with very high positives to win this race. I will note, however, that a lot of the battleground states have not come in, like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin have not come in yet. So there's still hope out there. Trump is going to need to flip one of those deep blue states if he wants to pull this out.
Minnesota and Michigan are looking close. So I want to talk about, I went to a Trump rally in Tampa, Florida, and I was shocked. I had never experienced anything quite like that. People were coming up after he assailed the media. One man came up in my face and said, "You're disgusting." I had an older woman say to me, "How do you sleep at night?" One person called me despicable. Another called me a name that I will not repeat on the air. There is so much hatred out there right now for the institutions, for any sort of thing that seems establishment. Amy, has Donald Trump done a master job of bringing out the worst in people? You don't hear hope at his rally, you hear anger.
That may be what you're hearing, but the people there have hope because somebody's finally recognized that the people are upset because Washington's so disconnected from the rest of the country. I mean, and I don't mean this to insult any of you guys because y'all live here, but there is a difference in Washington, D.C. in the bubble versus out in the heartland. And the people across America, your everyday average Joe and Mary, are completely disconnected from Washington and feel like that when they elect these people and they send them here to do the people's business, they don't do it then. They become, you know, more concerned with staying in office and running for re-election the next time. And the problem is that the media has become part of that, and they see the bias in the media, and so it really is. There's this feeling out there that it's us against them, and that's where it's coming from. And I do think that it's something that we need to work on. That we need to have those conversations, and regardless of who wins tonight, we're going to have to deal with this problem because we are divided. We are a very divided nation right now. But when the American people feel like Washington is against them, the establishment and the media is against them, that is a problem.
Indira, if Donald Trump becomes president after calling Muslims terrorists, saying that they need to be banned from entering the country, Mexicans rapists and murderers, everything he has said about and saying to African Americans, well, you can't do worse because you're being killed in the streets.
What have you got to lose was the term the phrase he's been using with black Americans. Look, I mean,
what if tens of millions of Americans vote for him, and even if he doesn't win the White House?
I think we have to see what happens. I mean, between college-educated white women, which are considered to be the largest voting bloc, single voting bloc in this election, and they were going strongly for Hillary Clinton in the polls, plus non-whites, those two groups together make up 50% of the electorate now. Those two groups were favoring Hillary Clinton. We're going to have to see what happens. There's one thing that Amy said that I strongly agree with, which is no matter who wins tonight, there's a lot of healing that has to happen in this country. As the one media representative conservative on this panel, I have to strongly disagree with the point about saying that the media is against the American people. That's not true. The media bias, that is not true. The problem is people now are inside their little bubbles. Their bubbles on Facebook, their bubbles on Twitter, their bubbles on Fox News or MSNBC. Yeah. Everyone is in a self-reinforcing thing where they only believe the media that talks to them. They don't believe the rest, but that is a real problem. It's not true that it's us against them.
Douglas, would Donald Trump be the nominee if Barack Obama hadn't been the first African-American president?
I think so. I don't think this was necessarily on Barack Obama. I think,
well, first an African-American and then a woman.
Right.
You do hear that at the Trump rallies.
Yeah. Like it's something bad to be African-American or woman.
I disagree with that.
Well, I want Douglas to answer. We don't have that much time, so go ahead.
So I don't necessarily think we had this long, drawn-out primary. Everybody had a shot. There were 17 candidates. I am amazed that Donald Trump was able to make it through. I don't even think that Donald Trump thought that he would get this far. He seemed to be that maybe he was surprised himself at some of his success. And right now, we're surprised again at some of the success we're seeing here. But, I don't think necessarily it has anything to do with Barack Obama. I mean, Barack Obama did a lot of great things. Unemployment is down to 4.9%.
But people don't feel it.
Highest graduation rate. There are more jobs.
I have 30 seconds.
More jobs added to the economy than ever before. 79 months is the same job growth. I mean, those are hard facts that you have to understand and look at.
And he's got a higher approval rating at the end of his term now than Reagan did.
You have facts, and then you have how the voters feel, and I'm being told that I have to go. You guys have been great. Thank you so much. This was an important discussion. That's the latest now from Washington.